technology is changing and what policies and regulations are required to support you. And lastly, building interconnected ecosystems with involvement from all the different actors, from academia, from the private sector, from the government, from the financiers. So thank you all for inviting me to share with you about our journey, but also to learn from you. And I'm looking forward to a productive week ahead here in Accra at the Ghana Digital Innovation Week. Thank you.
One more time, if you may, a round of applause for that very insightful keynote address by the Managing Director of Kigali Innovation City, Tessy Rusagara. If you're joining us online, if you're joining us on radio, if you're joining us on television, this is the first Ghana Digital and Innovation Week under the auspices of the Office of the Vice President of the Republic in collaboration with GIZ on behalf of the government of Germany. Today is the role of innovation in Ghana, and that's why in the wisdom of the President of the Republic, he established, in addition to the Ministry of Environment, a Science, Technology and Innovation Center. Would you please make welcome the Minister, yours and mine, the Honorable Dr. Kweku Efriye, for his address.
Thank you very much. I believe mine is not exactly an address. We will have our day on Wednesday, and then you will see Messi in its element. But, Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, please indulge me a little bit, because I know that you are the spiritual leader and master of the Boolean data type in Ghana, and also maybe the what I call probabilistic logic, and then also, if I will stop myself here, organization of stochastic processes in this country. Because what we are doing, or what you are leading, is very, very important for the development of this country. But Your Excellency, more of that on Wednesday. Your Excellency, the Ambassador of Germany to Ghana, Mr. Daniel Krul, His Excellency Shlomit Sufa, Ambassador Designate of Israel for Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, and Your Excellency, I've said I'm a friend and a self-appointed half-citizen of Hadera in Israel, colleague ministers of state, Ghana's development partners present today, members of the diplomatic corps, heads of agencies and other institutions present, chief directors, friends from the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I think I've exhausted it, so there's nothing like no protocol, all protocols there. Good morning, and I think it's an honor for me to join our partners for innovation in welcoming you to the first edition of Ghana Digital Innovation Week. And I want to take the opportunity to express my gratitude to the organizers of this great event for bringing such a diverse group of partners and stakeholders of innovation together with the people of Ghana, and for granting me such a great opportunity to deliver these brief remarks. The Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation recognizes the role that research and innovation in general, and digital innovations in particular, play in the development agendas of leading economies of the world and its impact on the living standards of their people. That's why our country has placed science, technology, and innovation at the center of our national development agenda as we strive towards Ghana Beyond Aid. And indeed, we've said that even if the average taxi driver doesn't have is not exactly well-versed in science and technology issues, you should know how scientists work or think. And with the team mobilizing collective action and investment to catalyze growth in Ghana's innovation ecosystem, the Ghana Digital Innovation Week provides a great platform for us to define how we are going to employ ST and I as the catalyst for achieving the great national vision. Together with a shift in the mindset of our people, a shift in the mindset of our people towards becoming champions and drivers of innovation, I believe the achievements of Ghana Digital Innovation Week will motivate the government, the private sector, academia, and our development partners to support mobilization of investments and other resources that our country needs to develop and strengthen Ghana's innovation ecosystem. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, MESTI is playing a role of a coordinator and working very closely with all our colleague ministries, particularly Ministry of Communication and Digitalization, Trade and Industry, Food and Agriculture, Education and Health, as well as academia and the private sector to develop the innovation ecosystem. Indeed, if I may use the football speak, MESTI is the Thomas Partey of all the sectors, and we are an enforcer. We get the ball, we trap it, we dribble, and we place the ball to the person who is in a better position to score. That is my job. So you don't expect that I will be at the forefront. I'm willing to, or MESTI is willing to celebrate with a person or the sector who scores. But that, again, is for the third day. We are also working with our development partners, Germany, Israel, South Korea, the UK, and Canada, who are currently providing both technical and financial support to make this happen. And again, let me say that, yes, they might be leading, but when it comes to digital systems, we are not far left behind. After all, it is a phenomenon which started only a few generations back, even though it's rooted in history. Indeed, when we talk about digital systems, one begins to wonder why it was not discovered and applied a lot earlier in human development. It's a very wonderful thing because it's all based on idea of digits, 0 and 1, and logic which is applied to it, and you build up the system. But again, more of that later. Your Excellency, we believe that we are very grateful for their support, and I wish to take this opportunity to say a big thank you for their support. Ladies and gentlemen, like I've said, Day 3 of the Ghana Digital Innovation Week has been designated as the Makers Day and has been set aside for MESTI and our partners to speak or to spark creative problem solving. And I entreat a lot of you to be present on Day 3. We are to inspire practical making and hands-on innovations. It is also set aside to advance national conversation on Ghana's innovation policy, MESTI's plan for the commercialization of research and innovation, the purpose of the Ghana Innovation and Research and Commercialization Center, and the role that MESTI plays in all this. MESTI is being ably supported by the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Agriculture, academia, and our research and technology agencies. I want to take this opportunity to urge all those who have joined us today and those who will join us during all these week's events from tomorrow on to tune in and participate in the activities planned for the Makers Day. We will use the occasion to outline in more detail how MESTI, that for those of you, maybe the acronym is Minister of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation, how MESTI plans to work with our colleagues and partners to develop and strengthen Ghana's innovation ecosystem, and how we intend to make technology and innovation one of the most critical tools for our nation's development. Once again, I welcome you all to Ghana and to the Ghana Digital Innovation Week. I wish all of us a very productive engagement, valuable knowledge exchange, exciting exhibitions, and fruitful networking. Akwaba.
grateful to you, Ghana's Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, for painting a clear picture of what this event really is about. As the Minister alluded to earlier, our drive to build a very robust ecosystem hinges on the interdependence of many sectors. One of such sectors, ladies and gentlemen, is the Ministry for Communication and Digitalization. It is proper that we receive some remarks from them. The Deputy Minister speaks on behalf of the Honorable Minister. Please make welcome the Honorable Ama Poma Boateng.
Thank you. I'm not good at football, but I know that Ministry of Communications and Digitalization is all that the poet talked about earlier on. We are digitalizing, I have to get the word right. We are digitalizing everything. My Honorable Minister for Science and Technology spoke about. Your Excellency, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, Honorable Dr. Kwekwe, the Deputy Minister for Trade, the German Ambassador, the Israeli Ambassador, Canada Ambassador, United States Ambassador, heads of institutions, my friend from Kigali, media, our virtual participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I commend the Planning Committee for putting together such an important program. MOCD is happy to support and be an integral part of this program in building a common vision for Ghana's development. Once again, thank you and Akwaba to the program. We are a government focused and committed to building a world-class digital economy that is in tandem with global standards. The world in which we live is one that relies on technology, data, speed, and convenience, and our constituents expect a fast, responsive experience. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, MOCD is mandated to lead the digital transformation agenda, and this requires an integrated view of understanding technologies, driving the change and innovation. Through this integrated view, MOCD supports and unlocks the enormous benefits of digital technologies while minimizing the risk they present both now and in the future. Innovation is at the heart of our mandate, and we encourage it wherever we can so that we can use technology as an engine for growth and cement Ghana's position as the technology capital of West Africa. Through our agencies, we work with a vision to facilitate the development of a reliable and cost-effective world-class communications infrastructure and services driven by appropriate technological innovations, accessible by all citizens to enhance the promotion of economic competitiveness in a knowledge-based environment. With this vision, MOC is ably supported by its agencies, National Communications Authority, National Information Technology Agency, Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications, Ghana Domain Name Registry, Accra Digital Center, Advanced Information Technology, that is the Kofi Annan Center for Excellence, Ghana Meteorological Agency, our Courier and Postal Services Agency, Ghana Post as well, the Cyber Security Authority, and the Data Protection Commission. We are the government's go-to organization for digital innovations and management. regulations, standards, skills support, business incubations and accelerations, and other support dedicated to nurturing digital innovations. We continue to galvanize support and funds for the digital ecosystem. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, service innovations, product innovations, and process innovations with the availability of data are creating a lot of opportunities for innovative digital ideas for government, businesses, and entrepreneurs. And leveraging the data is a critical part of digital transformation and innovations. Reimagining data to solve challenges uncovers new business values and innovation for local and global solutions. In this pro-growth data regime, MOCD continues to build in international considerations and adoptions through the work of our agencies that drives innovations and growth across digital markets and across borders. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have also initiated meaningful projects to achieve the long-term vision of an inclusive digital economy. In September 2021, 50 female tertiary students across the country were trained over a 3-week intensive period on artificial intelligence, coding, and cybersecurity. At the end of the session, these ladies developed 4 digital innovative ideas, namely UniHealth, Digital Parliament, Soil Fertility Tester, and Smart Irrigation. With digital product management training and support from Kofi Annan Center of Excellence and Accra Digital Center, these female young students are being groomed to be tech entrepreneurs. In October 2021, about 60,000 high school girls in Ashanti, Eastern and Central regions were also trained on cybersecurity. The motive was not only for the girls to stay safe online, but also to create a cybersecurity innovation network. We are nurturing these high school students to identify and create innovative solutions by becoming early-stage cybersecurity entrepreneurs. Cybersecurity is required to facilitate Ghana's economic growth, protect the critical infrastructures, and also maintain political stability. And it is important we create digital innovations in that space. With the appropriate funds and fund, these high school students can be coached to have compelling digital products and service solutions to keep individuals and businesses safe online. Ghana India Kofi Annan Center of Excellence has also created a digital solution called Edunos for the education community. Nyansapor operating system has also been developed to suit Ghanaian digital environment. Our Ghana Meteorological Agency cannot be left out. It continues to create apps and groom young people to come up with innovations to better anticipate and respond to weather events and climate change. MOCD is creating regional innovation hubs and seeks for partnerships. I would like to take this opportunity to mention one of such examples, which is our partnership with GIZ. With GIZ's Digital Transformation Centers. And this is helping us to expand our community information centers in 5 regions. We are also delighted to welcome our partner, Smart Africa from Rwanda, to this week's program. As a catalyst, MOCD continues to accelerate digital innovations through collaborations and information sharing. We look forward to discussions on having a dedicated digital innovation fund, franchise exhibition opportunities for the innovations, and percentages of government businesses allocated to our homegrown digital innovations. Also, for businesses, opportunities exist to invest in building connectivity infrastructure. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, technologies evolve constantly, and MOCD will constantly build on that progress, create the enabling environment, and encourage budding entrepreneurs and innovators to work and provide solutions across industries. We are convinced that the Ghana Digital Innovation Week celebration and activities will help ignite innovative ways of pursuing Ghana's digital development agenda. Once again, I would like to congratulate all partners and stakeholders for making this program possible. I wish us fruitful conversations. MOCD's Day is tomorrow, and we hope to see you all. Thank you.
Evolution is an indelible part of humanity. As man evolves in the tale of creation, so has the way we live and do business. Allow me to take you on a short trip down memory lane here in Ghana. Remember when we sent mails via post and telegram? Keeping paper records and writing in large ledger books. Then came the personal computers that made documentation and storage of information a lot easier. The game changer, perhaps, was the internet and mobile telephony. And now every Ghanaian could say, Mijina Bontaina Mekasa. Connecting globally was at our fingertips, bringing a complete transformation of how we communicate and do business. So much power in the hands of man, and on it rested our digital transformational journey in Ghana. Financial digital innovation milestones in Ghana includes the microchecks in 1997, Ghana Interbank Settlement System in 2002, eSwitch Payment System 2008. Then came the mobile money transactions in 2009, which has since become the bank for millions of unbanked in Ghana. Other payment solutions like automated clearinghouse, GH-Link, credit and proprietary debit cards, prepaid cards have all made doing business in Ghana a lot easier. Digital evolution and innovations have made the world bigger, and the internet of how we do things has brought us convenience. Global conferences, fairs, meetings are now done with ease digitally via tabs, laptops, and smartphones. Rides, food orders, shopping, paying bills or utilities, and a whole lot more being done with just a click, thanks to digital innovations. It gets digitally amazing every day. The world is in a digital space, and Ghana is geared to escalate our digital innovations and transformation agenda. Digital innovations is the future, and Ghana is digital ready. Are you? See you at GDIW 2021 to learn more about how you can transform your business digitally.
And it's for this reason we meet here at the Maiden Ghana Digital and Innovation Week, the initiative of the Vice President's Office in collaboration with GIZ on behalf of the government of Germany. Just gone by were remarks from Their Excellencies, the German ambassador, the Israeli ambassador, the managing director for Kigali Innovation Center, who delivered a very thought-provoking keynote address, ministers from the Ministries of Innovation, Science and Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, I beg your pardon, and Communications Digitalization have also rendered their remarks. It now falls to the man who leads this nation digitally and has expanded the frontiers of digital innovation during these 5 years to the admiration of all of us. Would you please make welcome our guest of honor, the Vice President of the Republic, His Excellency, Alhaji Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia.
Thank you very much. Please take your seats. Thank you. The Honorable Dr. Kweku Afriyie, Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation. Honorable Ama Poma Boateng, Deputy Minister of Communications and Digitalization. Honorable Herbert Krapper, Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. Your Excellencies, Stephanie Sullivan, U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, His Excellency Daniel Krul, the German ambassador to Ghana, Her Excellency Shlomit Sufa, Israeli ambassador to Ghana, Her Excellency the Canadian ambassador to Ghana as well, the managing director of the Kigali Innovation City, Tessie Rusagara, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor that I welcome you to the official opening of Ghana's first Digital Innovation Week. This is really historic, and it has been a long journey to get here. Of course, when you think about digitalization on the one hand and innovation, we've known in the field of economics that the difference between countries that grow and countries that don't, countries that are richer and countries that are poorer, fundamentally the data or the empirical evidence puts it largely to technology, to innovation. Countries that innovate, countries that are technologically superior are those that end up climbing up the ladder of economic development. So when we came into office in 2017, it was very clear to us that the path of digitalization and innovation was very important for Ghana. So I assembled a team of the local tech industry, and we went to the world's mecca for technology and innovation, which is Silicon Valley. We were in San Francisco with a whole team, local team, to look at where we were, the frontiers of technology. And we were focusing at that time on digital technology. It was during that Silicon Valley trip, for example, that we met Zipline, which we were already in Rwanda, and we brought them home. But we came back and we focused on the digitalization agenda, and we've made major strides in that area. And one of the things that is very clear in this journey that Ghana has been on in the last 5 years is how much local talent that we have. The skills domestically in the area of IT and innovation is very remarkable. And so last year, we started talking about what next. Of course, we've seen a lot of focus on digitalization, but we thought that the innovation part we weren't paying as much attention to. Innovation was happening, but it was largely in silos, and we didn't really have an ecosystem. And we needed to build this ecosystem. And this is where the discussions with Israel and Germany, the GIZ, came together. So let me begin, in having this week, let me begin by commending all the stakeholders who have committed resources and worked tirelessly to organize this event. I'd like to congratulate the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization, the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the Accra Digital Center, the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, the Ghana Chamber of Technology, Ashesi University, University of Ghana, Ghana Hubs Network, Mashav and GIZ. More than a planning committee, this group is becoming an innovation task force that will support the digital innovation ecosystem to follow up on the priorities and agreements reached during this Ghana Digital Innovation Week. I see a continued need to uphold the collaborative nature of this partnership if this is to become an annual event. And I fully expect that it will be an annual event going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, when I say ecosystem, I am referring to the entrepreneurs, investors, researchers, university faculties, venture capitalists, as well as other technical service providers, such as accountants, designers, manufacturers, and providers of skills training and professional development. I am glad to see representation from all of the above groups and actors. Another way to look at the ecosystem are the policymakers, legislators, the regulators, the infrastructure builders, that is the pillars of digitization on the one hand. On the other hand are those, including myself, very interested in the development of the tools and instruments of digitalization, that is the enablers of digitalization in transforming the economy, in the innovations from the factory to the offices, in revenue mobilization, in curbing bribery and corruption, and in the efficient delivery of public services. The leadership and efficient organization of the industry is rightfully resident in the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization, and it's necessary for the successful digital transformation of the economy through its numerous applications. And when it comes to innovation, of course, we will look to the Ministry of Environment, Technology, Science, and Innovation. This Ghana Digital Innovation Week will serve as a platform to discuss and define a common national vision that drives digital innovation and generates wide interest and prompts concrete actions in the policy, legislative, regulatory spaces, and the needed hard infrastructure. Furthermore, let us use this opportunity to highlight our nation's achievements in the digital innovation ecosystem and lead the conversation on how best Ghana can position itself to drive its development agenda through inclusive and collaborative stakeholder participation in the ecosystem. It is through an open, inclusive, and participatory process where the voices of all can be heard in crafting Ghana's digital future and unleash the true potential that innovation holds. As I outlined in my lecture at Ashesi University a few weeks ago, government is committed to transforming Ghana through digitalization. A vibrant modern Ghana can only be built if strong institutions and systems are in place. Without these, this nation will be stuck in a vicious cycle of rhetoric and underdevelopment. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that the COVID-19 pandemic presented many challenges. Empirical evidence indicates that it slowed down economic growth and stalled development of many economies, including Ghana. But it also taught us many lessons. One major lesson is that to rebuild our post-pandemic economy, there is an urgent need of investing in innovative technology to leapfrog the obstacles to inclusive development. There is perhaps no more important development revolution facing us now than the fast approaching digitization and leveraging of technology to develop our country. The opportunities to leverage technology for accelerated and inclusive development had never been so tangible. This is the time to take a critical look at our innovations and the digital transformation journey and feed our reflections and ambitions into a shared vision. Ladies and gentlemen, let me emphasize that to achieve this inclusive and accelerated development, all stakeholders must work together in order to grow Ghana and African countries' innovation and ecosystems. Tapping into the experience, expertise, and networks of all countries, particularly our Pan-African brothers and sisters, will not only offer us a wealth of lessons and insights, but will also help us build effective, collaborative innovation ecosystems. Indeed, this Ghana Digital Innovation Week is the outcome of the trilateral cooperation between Ghana, Germany, and Israel on innovation and development. Hand in hand with our partners, we shall continue to nurture our local innovation ecosystems and establish connections with the ecosystems abroad. Innovation sees no boundaries, but for us to explore its full potential, we must join hands within our local ecosystems and also across innovation ecosystems in Africa and elsewhere to strengthen our foundations and accelerate innovations. And it is because of this that government has taken the decision that we need a technology park, a technology and innovation park in Ghana. We have been talking to partners. We've sent a team out to Israel to take a look at what they have been doing in this area. We've seen what Rwanda is doing. But our vision is to establish Ghana as the tech and innovation hub in West Africa to start with, and then we will take it from there. We want all the global players to come and be part of this technology park that we want to build. And this is why, Stephanie, you've got to hook us up with all the global players. And we're talking to Israel and Germany because we've got to build this tech and innovation park. As I conclude, let us challenge ourselves today to think outside the box. Let us dare ourselves in the small and the large. Be creative, be innovative. Let us use this week to reimagine Ghana's digital future. Let us raise our voices, share our perspectives, and work together towards a common vision of a vibrant local digital economy. The digital landscape of our economies is evolving. The fourth industrial revolution is upon us, and Ghana must be part of the modern world. On this note, I declare that Ghana's first Digital Innovation Week officially open. Let this be the first of many fruitful cross-sectoral gatherings to celebrate and advance Ghana's promising digital journey. May God bless our homeland Ghana and make her great and strong. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
The Vice President of the Republic, ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Alhaji Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. You can't do this sitting down, can you?
Wow. What an impression you've made on us, Your Excellency the Vice President. Please be seated. We thank you for those very thoughtful remarks, calling us to innovate, create, reimagine Ghana's digital future, amongst many other things. One thing that strikes me is the convergence of thought that flows through all the submissions that have come thus far. Particularly striking is the fact that our future should be Pan-African and we must own it. And that, for me, is key. Mr. Vice President, I know that your time is very, 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 very far-stretched and you have other things to do. Let me just apprise you of a few things that we're going to do after you've departed from our midst. We're going to have a very robust conversation on executing the digital transformation agenda, optimal pathways, and key drivers. After which we shall have a topical presentation on co-creating Ghana's digital transformation on a robust national digital architecture. We shall have a topical presentation also on the STI policy, very in-depth, And finally, we shall have a panel discussion also on building partnerships for digital innovations and the InnoHub Foundation. We shall talk about Industry 4.0 and the future of jobs, a conversation on AFTA, but most importantly, an innovation ecosystem assessment and the GDIW assessment. If you would like to stay with us, we'll be glad. But we know you have to attend to other things. So exhibitors, please take your place. Mr. Vice President, respectfully, I invite you, together with the members of the front, please proceed to the front for a group photograph. A round of applause as they come. And while they're at that, allow me to acknowledge my co-MC who will take us through the second leg of today's engagement, Madame Emilia K. Ennison, a development communications expert, and our moderator for the next session. Emilia, what's the face of the next conversation?
It's going to be very exciting, Jerry. We have a couple of industry players who are going to be sharing some of their plans for Ghana's digital innovation. Yes, very exciting. So we are asking that you stick and stay.
Okay. To this end, I ask that we all rise and give to the Vice President his salute. Bless you, the Vice President of the Republic. May God bless GDIW, and may God bless our homeland Ghana and make her great and strong. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. And so, Emilia, quickly, let's go through the first panel discussion.
Yes, Jerry, thank you very much. Yeah? Yes, Jerry, thank you very much. And I'm excited to share with you that throughout the week, we have activities happening in 8 regions in Ghana. We are not focusing digitalization in Accra alone, and we're going to be sharing with you throughout the week snippets of what is happening in the other 8 regions of the country. We are very excited to also give you the opportunity to take a look at what will be going on in our innovation village outside after the kick-off ceremony. Happening now, I'd like to invite Dr. Gordon Adomja. He is going to be leading a panel discussion on executing the digital transformation agenda. He's going to be sharing the optimal paths and key drivers for innovation. I know we've been sitting for a while. We'd like to take a deep breather and rest. We are going to pause briefly. We have a beautiful musical interlude by Mr. Otri. I know he's an excellent saxophonist. He's very excited to be sharing with you what he's prepared for us. Mr. Otri, I can see you in the back.
cute Tim. No, yeah, yeah. It ain't call you, yeah. Jam rhythm.
You should hear him panting behind me. That was intense. Thank you very, very much. I hope you enjoy that. A quick reminder that we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. I'd like to invite those of us who are outside enjoying the beautiful exhibitions to join us. We're going to be here all week and we will have ample opportunity to explore the stands outside. So an invitation to our invited guests and all of our dignitaries to join us back inside the main conference room. Our moderator for the next session is ready. He is an incredible person, and he told me not to embellish his introduction, but I cannot help it. I have had the personal pleasure of working with him on many occasions, and it's truly an honor to meet him here this morning. He is an associate professor of entrepreneurship and innovation at the Ashesi University. He teaches courses that use design thinking in the development of innovative concepts for new ideas and business models at Ashesi, and also through Design Thinking Ghana, an organization which he co-founded to provide design thinking training and consulting support to startups and corporations. I see him walking up, and that is him signaling me not to go on and embarrass him any further. Dr. Gordon, welcome to the Ghana Digital Innovation Week. A round of applause. And I will let you do the honors of welcoming the panelists.
Well, good morning, everyone. I think we'll have the panelists seated, and then we'll introduce them. So please come on board. Well, good morning again. Two things I picked up from the session this morning is that digital transformation is our future, and the future should be Pan-African. So I don't know if you picked that up as well. So Gordon Adomja again, Ashesi University. I'm very excited to host this distinguished gentleman and lady. I know this morning was going to be a morning of speeches, so I wrote something very small. Didn't want to be left out. So as the various speakers have outlined, that Ghana is embarking on a remarkable digital transformation journey with huge investments in digital infrastructure, including payments, digitization of government services, regulation, and so forth. The scope of the transformation efforts is indeed very wide, and the potential to greatly disrupt, and it has the potential to greatly disrupt business as usual in many sectors and spheres of society. It's very clear that the transformation hill can be an arduous climb, and we can only succeed if all stakeholders play their role and if they collaborate effectively. And when I introduce the panelists, you'll see why, because they come from almost all spheres of the economy. There's a need for all stakeholders in private and public sector and indeed the general public, to join hands, co-create, collaborate to ensure that the digital transformation is inclusive and touches everyone. So because the efforts are deep and we are basically doubling down, there are critical questions that come up. Number one, do we have our priorities right? Are all the necessary sectors attuned and engaged? Are the right stakeholders at the table? Are those engaged following the plan? Which plan? Who owns the plan? And where does it live? Is it sufficient to leave the transformation agenda to market forces, or should we intentionally coordinate the efforts of relevant stakeholders in the private and public sector? How do we energize co-creation and action among relevant stakeholders? How do we measure success? What indicators are we tracking? What benchmarks do we follow? What have we learned from other countries? Germany, Israel, Rwanda, and so forth. To help us dive into these issues, we have our wonderful panelists. Because our time is very short, I am going to introduce them. Because great people, they just can't help it. So I'm going to start with Professor Fred Makbagon-Lowry. He's the president and provost of Academic City University College. Professor Fred is a Ghanaian-American inventor, and I would add novelist. You should look up his name and read his books. Before this position, he was the founding dean of Ashesi University, so he was my dean as well. And prior to that, he's had many years of experience in product development, for instance, at Jones Healthcare in Arlington, Texas. He was the director of research and development and director of IT at Siemens Medical, and also at Becton Dickinson, the world's largest manufacturer of injection systems. And through all of this, he co-invented 22 US patents and several numerous technical publications. It's very much in order. I haven't met another Ghanaian with more than 22 patents, so hats off to you, sir. Very quickly, once upon a time, he nearly made it as an astronaut. He probably would tell us about that. The next is Dr. Collins Yabua Afari, Director General of the Advanced Information Technology Kofi Annan Center for Excellence. He's also the chairman of Big Pay Ghana Limited. He's had many years of experience, including recently as the Director of IT at the Electoral Commission of Ghana, which successfully, we would say, delivered the 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections. He's worked on many IT projects worldwide, including for clients such as the Maryland Department of Transportation, the United States Mint Department of Treasury in Washington, and also for the Vanguard Group in the US. Welcome, Dr. Collins Yabua Afari. Next is Mr. Samuel Amano, founder and CEO of Blue Space Africa Technologies, a financial technology integration company. He's also had many years of experience in the leveraging technology game, I would say. He cut his teeth working at Oracle, worked through with a number of companies, including EMC and Dell, leading their business development in emerging markets, particularly in Ghana. And he has a lot of passion for helping companies start new businesses and also helping startups. So he represents our private sector space, so to speak. Next, who's going to be on the line is Dr. Harold Egner. He's a chief engineer at the Manufacturing Technology Center in the UK, which develops, improves, and operates the most advanced, innovative manufacturing processes and technologies in the world. He's responsible for international research partnerships, networks, and ecosystems. He's the co-organizer of the annual International Digitalizing Manufacturing Conference at the MTC, and prior to that, he worked for 23 years as the Strategy and European Relations officer, also at Fraunhofer Institute of Manufacturing and Engineering. Last but not the least is Johanna Hartang, the component manager at the Digital Transformation Center of GIZ. He's also the project lead for digital transformation at GIZ Ghana, where he leads a team in 6 regions of Ghana working on digital services in rural areas, digital skills, digital entrepreneurship, e-commerce, and artificial intelligence. Prior to that, he was advisor of digital transformation at GIZ from 2018 to 2020, and played similar roles for many years in Germany. Welcome, gentlemen and lady. I know that was a mouthful, but I needed to do that to save time. Okay, so here we are. We're going to start with one question for all the panelists, and then we're going to get specific and customized. And then after that, we're going to take questions. So if we can prepare the mic for questions somewhere, I don't know where, in the audience. I want to start with you, Professor Fred. What are the priorities for digital transformation agenda for academia? Given that we can say you represent many things, but let's say you represent academia this morning. And what are the prospects for education?
So thank you very much, Dr. Domza, for the kind introduction of myself and my fellow panelists here. And what a beautiful week it has been. I mean, just amazing. In addition to the beautiful music we just heard, I'm really, really excited to be part of this event and to see digital transformation beginning to take a central role in our developmental conversation. So what is the perspective of academia? Now, WASSCE results will come out soon. Professional results are out. We have over 400,000 students, potentially tertiary students, that will be coming into the university system. So everything the Vice President spoke about today, the technology park, the need to drive digital innovation, will have to be manned by these future graduates and those that are already in the system. And so academia has to be prepared to transform itself. You know, academia is usually the last place to move. You actually think academia should be at the forefront of driving technology development, but there is resistance. If you look at many of our technical universities today, people are still being taught technical drawing and engineering drawing. And the argument has always been, for you to be a good engineer, you have to go to the pencil and the paper. And the question I always ask is, if you want to be a medical doctor, do you have to go to the 18th century where they used to tie people down and chop their leg off with swords? So why do we always have to go back and learn from fundamentals? If you use digital media, you'll be able to co-create solutions with people sitting all around the world. So why use a pencil and a paper? So that's one area that tertiary education ought to change. Now, we were all hit with the pandemic, and this is just a sign of things to come. And I can tell you, we were not really ready. Universities like us went online within a week. Many others couldn't transform sooner. So how do we position our educational system so that it can respond in a very timely fashion to such shocks that are inherently coming? Many more of such will be coming. And you know, for those of us in higher ed, in the last 4 or 5 years that I've been in higher education, we were told you couldn't hire people to teach in the universities with degrees that were earned online. And there has never really been any coherent, prudent rationale for that. The assumption has always been that to have a good quality degree, you need to sit in the four corners of a classroom. Where that comes from, nobody knows, because Harvard Extension has been teaching online courses for more than 10 years. And you will actually think that in the developing world that we live in, where access, infrastructure, among other things, are so limited, we should be at the forefront of the digital revolution. So you look at East Africa, and you have M-Pesa, has been around for several years, and it rose because people could not move resources around. And so you would think that transforming into digital education, offering digital education, should actually be a priority in the developing world where we don't have the classrooms, we don't have the necessary infrastructure to drive education, but we've been resistant. And so this ought to change. Fundamentally, you know, when I work for the Siemens and the Becton and Dickinsons, when we hire people, we are looking for, one, skills. Do you have the skills to get the job done? We were never hiring saying, which university did you go to? We were hiring based on, can you work with other people? Your spirit to play in a team. Now, if you are as intelligent as Einstein and you can't work with other people, I don't want to hire you. Because knowledge is so vast that it cannot reside in one person's head. So you need the skills to work with other people. So skills, one, but team spirit is equally important. So I think the priority, essentially, in higher ed is to have the courage to transform into the digital world, to find ways to access the same capabilities that we were previously accessing within the classrooms. We need to understand that we can't send the kids back to the 18th century to learn things about building bridges when we have computers and software systems that can do that. And we need to have the courage as faculty to learn new things. You know, some of this resistance is because of our own inability or lack of initiative to learn new things. And the world of innovation is going so fast that, you know, I remember my days at Ashasi where the president would say, if you are not a student yourself, you shouldn't be here. We should all be learners. We should all be open to new things, new ideas, and understand that the world we live in is so dynamic that you can't be caught in a snapshot of time. So I think faculty has to go and be humble enough to learn new things and to integrate those new ideas in the classroom.
Right. Thank you so much, Prof. Digital education should be a priority in the developing world. It's wonderful. And we shouldn't send the kids back. The teachers have to be, learners as well have the courage to embrace digitalization. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, let's go to Samuel Amano. Let's say you represent the private sector.
The private sector.
Yes. So same question. What are the priorities for digital transformation agenda for the private sector? What are the prospects?
Thank you, Dr. Gordon, and thank you to the organizers of this event. I think it's a very forward-looking initiative, and I hope that it becomes an actionable sort of event where it won't just be a talk show, it won't just be a meet and greet and go home. So that's my hope for this event. But the private sector has different motives. They're driven by profit and loss. It's a capitalistic ecosystem, so time is money in the private sector. And as you know, digital transformation aims to foster a closer connect to customers, and it also aims to reduce the time in service delivery, whatever it is, right? So given these two initiatives, the private sector is actually undergoing tremendous transformation. If you look at the financial sector in particular, which is the sector that I'm focused on, we're looking at how to digitize financial activity, both for the service providers in terms of the operators, the banks, the insurance companies, the pension providers, as well as central banks across the continent. So anywhere there is financial services, we are there. And because their environment is heavily regulated, everything has to be auditable, everything has to be traceable, everything has to be particularly risk monitored when it comes to lending, for example. So the private sector within financial services is quite well positioned because it's the center for the economic structure, right? Because everything that happens, everything that is moving, whether you're selling coconut on the street, at some point you engage with a service provider who is in a financial service. If you're importing goods, you would engage the financial service industry. If you're a school like a Ashesi or the academic city, you would still engage the financial service provider. So they're in the center of everything that's happening. And the frustration is that the financial service providers are trying as much as possible to digitize. Obviously, the corporates that they are serving, the institutions that they are serving, on the other hand, may not be as fully digitized as they are. So there's a little bit of a break in terms of consistency of service. You guys have seen environments where you fill forms, even coming in here, you fill a form, you register online, you get to the desk and say, okay, write your name down again, right? So there's a complete disconnect in service delivery where there are interruptions in the customer experience, right? And this is happening across the entire ecosystem in the private sector. What this means is people are wasting time, number one. If time is money, you are definitely wasting time, right? And if you add, it may not be significant if you're looking at only 5 people. When you're looking at about 1,000 people or 1 million people the impact and the scale of the issue becomes quite big. For example, you want to register for your passport or your Ghana card or what have you in the private sector, you also have to deal with a government entity, right? Even though private sector is engaging, private sector is now dealing with another ecosystem, which is the government ecosystem. So what happens is, if the private sector is digitized, but the moment they leave that network, they go to a government ecosystem. If that government ecosystem is also not digitized, you have a break in customer experience. You also have a break in the service delivery. So digitization affects everybody. You cannot basically operate in silos, right? You can't say, oh, the Ghana government is heavily digitized. The question is, if you begin to measure which part of the Ghana government is digitized, you begin to see that there are breaks. There are interruptions. There are time inefficient systems that needs to be, obviously improved. The private sector is trying. If you look at agriculture, if you look at energy sector, if you look at water and sanitation, all these ecosystems require engagement with people. They require the handling of money. They require the authentication of identity. They require the storage of information. They require so many other things that are consistent across. The challenge is digital transformation can only be realized if you have a lot of doers, actors, and education around to inform all the participants who want to be digitized. There's a huge shortage of talent in Ghana, right? Because if you have the ambition to digitize, I think the Kigali innovation lady, Tessie, talked about the fact that procurement is the single interruption to speeding up the digital transformation agenda. If you look at the time it takes from issue an RFP to the time of fulfillment in the private sector, today it takes an average of about 6 to 9 months, right? The issuing of the RFP, the selection of the vendors, the award letter, the procurement of the assets that you want to acquire, the implementation of those assets, then the training of the staff who wants to use the service. By the time you actually see value, your money has depreciated at least by 30% of that asset that you've acquired, right? So the barriers are plenty, but I would say the biggest hurdle has to do with education, right? And also restructuring the private sector's ecosystem. They have to have a place to go to. Today, they float the RFPs in the public. There's no central focal point for banks to go to when they're looking for excellence in financial service transformation. There are no centers of excellence, right? So basically, if you're a part of an association, you call your friend who is in a bank. If you're part of an ecosystem where you have an association, you call them and say, hey, what did you do when it came to cybersecurity? What did you do when it came to document digitization? What did you do when it came to ID? What did you do when it came to fraud management or financial service inclusion into your business? So I think there has to be centers of excellence, which will provide the consistent thought leadership around how the private sector should digitize. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That's great. So education and consistency. Consistency across different sectors and people educated to embrace the movement, if you will. All right. Thank you for that. We'll go to Dr. Yeboah Afari. So as the Director General for the Kofi Annan Center, which is under MOCD, will say that you represent the public sector, let's put it that way. So what will be the priorities for digital transformation from, let's say, an ICT-focused government agency perspective?
All right. Thank you, Gordon, and thank you all for making time to come be with us here today, and actually for this week. So, and I just heard my partner here talking about the private sector missing the center of excellence, right? So where I come from, or my department, we are the center of excellence for the government. So I'm just giving my department, my agency a props here. Right. So the government's agenda focuses on a few things that are listed here that I think the agenda should follow, the transformation agenda should follow. The first of it is to promote innovation, right? I mean, the government would like to create an ecosystem where it's easier for everyone who has the ability to be able to innovate. In that doing, you increase operational efficiency, that's ease of doing business. So if you're a government, you know, your first and the only policy mandate is to provide goods and services for the citizens like you and I. So we also, along the way, improve revenue growth, create employment, and the last but not the least, reduce the cost of doing business in this country. So that agenda that the Vice President, you heard him speak about, that the Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister for MOCD also spoke about, is that, right? That is the nutshell of it. Now, we have a few of, actually most of our agencies that are now trying to join into this journey, trying to get their digital ecosystem in their own place done, so that we can join into this idea, the vision that the Vice President has, which my department and the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization is implementing this agenda. You know, when you go around and talk to them, what you hear is that most of them, they lack the support, the technical support to help them identify the areas where they can digitize, right? They don't have the skills, enough skills or adequate skills. They lack online platform to do collaboration and co-creation and all that. And some are now just begun to discuss or even talk about the cost benefits analysis, of which, you know, we're all trying to help these agencies in doing that. But now the problem is, you know, we still have agencies who are, or which are just now doing work in silos, trying to develop their own kind of digitalization agenda that may not necessarily be what the Vice President's vision is. But there is a policy document that's being developed that is in the draft stage now that our minister is working on with the consultants that will soon be subjected to stakeholder consultations. And that policy document seeks to provide a framework to lead us all on the public agencies to determine how ready we are, how digital service assessment is going to be done, and actually review what existing digital services we have, and then see how we prioritize these services, and then which agency even gets the priority over the other in terms of onboarding and all that. So there's a framework coming that will help us do that, but unfortunately it's not done yet. It's in the draft stages that when my minister comes back, we'll subject it to stakeholder consultations and get some proper direction in this journey. So that's where we are now, and thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. I think the speaker from Rwanda also mentioned that, right? The need for that policy framework that the different stakeholders will be sort of plugged into to realize or execute the digitization agenda. So it's good to hear you say that. And it was good for you to share your comments right after Samuel's, because, you know, he was identifying the things that were missing, and you're saying, well, we have some of them, but we have a long way to go. That's good. So let's go to Ms. Johanna. Development agencies support governments and also focus on making sure that, you know, the policies and programs are quite widespread, I would say. Let's put it that way. What are the priorities for digital transformation agenda for development agencies like GIZ, also given that you are a key component of this program?
Thank you, Gordon. First of all, I also wanted to mention that I'm not Harold.
No, you're not. I didn't say
Harold, because you introduced him right after him. So
right.
Harold is online.
Yes.
And my name is Johanna.
Yes.
And I'm very excited about being here today. Finally, we have reached this day, and we have prepared for long for this day. And I'm also very excited to be on a panel which is truly multi-stakeholder in the full spirit of the Ghana Digital Innovation Week, and also what His Excellency, our Vice President, has said about collaboration in the ecosystem. So very happy about that. As a development partner, we would not dare to speak about kind of our priorities. And so I would rather kind of tap into a document that representatives from the African Union, as we have spoken a lot about Pan-Africanism today, from the African Union and the European Union discussed about, and from Ghana, Honorable Minister Ursula Owusu-Ekufo was also representing the African Union in this case, and they discussed about 4 main goals, which I think I would quickly touch upon, which is universal access to affordable broadband. I think we have heard about this base that is necessary for any digitalization efforts we are talking about. Essential skills for all to enable citizens to thrive. I think education has already been mentioned by Professor Magunlura. And then, we have also spoken about improving the business environment, facilitating access to finance and business development services to boost digitally enabled entrepreneurship, but then also to transform the more kind of traditional sectors of the economy and to accelerate the adoption of e-services. So these are the 4 goals that this distinguished task force has come up with, and that kind of captures it already very well. But then when it comes to kind of the principle behind that I wanted to quickly touch upon is the putting humans in the center of these goals and the digital transformation agenda. And for us, that means making sure that the digital transformation is broadly and inclusive and sustainable. And so as a development partner, what we might kind of also make sure is that we represent people on such panels here that are not here, that are the ones that digitalization has also not yet reached out to. That is people in the rural areas, many women and girls. We have the statistics that are left behind. So putting humans in the center and making sure that no one is left behind is what I would call as a priority. And then speaking about priorities before I end here is also about having the priorities, and then we discussed about execution. So in lines of execution, it's about creating coordinating structures, and we have discussed about this or heard about this today at the national level, but then also at the regional and continental level, GDIW being kind of one first start into the conversation, but then there are also is also the need for kind of specific platforms for specific goals. For example, for business-ready ideas and innovations, including disruptive technologies, to have research institutions, universities, private sector come together. And I think the Center of Excellence is something that has also been mentioned before for different areas, for stakeholders to come together and specialize. Because I think what is also necessary is that whilst we are talking about synergies of the many initiatives, it's also about kind of specialization in the ecosystem and having stakeholders work together to make specific progress in specific areas where Ghana already has a competitive advantage.
All right. Well, that sounds great. I was going to ask you how far we've come on the list that you just provided, but I'll come back to you on that. So last but not the least, we hopefully, in the spirit of digital transformation, we'll hear from Harold Egner from the UK. So let's see if we can have him online. Oh, there you are. Welcome, Harold.
Welcome. I hope you...
Wonderful. So let's say from an outsider's perspective, what priorities should, for digital transformation, what priorities should Ghana be focused on, or what priorities must Ghana have to effectively execute a digital transformation agenda?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Personally, I hope you can hear me, and
yes.
I hope you can see me. I can't see since I gone online. The picture from the panel has disappeared, but yeah.
We can hear you, we can see you. We can hear and see you.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, I have the great benefit, not only been living in 2 different countries, but in different ecosystems, innovation ecosystems as well. But thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be part of this, because being part of something like this is a completely new dimension for me as well. And however, when you actually approach this question of how to approach digital transformation, I think there's simply 3 key things you need to try to differentiate. It's a complex issue, this transformation. But I think what you always should try to do to differentiate between the why, the what, and the how. So starting with why is it actually what you're doing? And I think first of all, keep in mind, digital as such is not the purpose itself. Digital is a massive and a very powerful enabler, but it only can enable what you want to do and what you want to achieve. So you have to be very clear about what is it actually, or why you're actually doing all this. And you need to understand who are your customers and what are the needs of these customers. And I think there is a very wide range of customers. And if you can bring them all together, you can achieve a lot. So that's not only in industry, there's infrastructure, there's economy as a whole. There's all the things that about the state administration we heard before as well. So it's understanding all that and then actually why you're going to do that. And then the why should help you. When you understand the why, you should be able to define some outcomes. And that is actually the measure if you make progress or not. And be careful. I'm personally not a big fan of KPIs, particularly when it comes to education systems. There's some very bad examples in the UK, for example. What is easy to measure is not usually the right thing to measure. It's easy to, like the example before, okay, the number of patents or something, it's easy to measure, but I think you have to be careful throwing too many KPIs out that you actually, in the end, you get what you measure and not necessarily maybe what you wanted. On the what is it you're going to do? And I think there is things been mentioned before, and maybe just briefly summarize again. The point is for digital transformation, digital itself is about connectivity, but the digital transformation is about connectivity as well, but not only in the technical sense of interoperability and so on. It's actually how can you connect things, how can you align things, how can you bring things together across sectors, across different industry sectors, and how can you focus, connect in one way, but focus on the other side as well. Centers of excellence have been mentioned, and they basically are a big opportunity, but you have to be careful that these centers sometimes turn into silos because excellence always means a competition. I think the big thing is to how can you create these centers, but still make sure they're actually connected and they basically are part of a network, and the network is visible to the end users, to the customers, so they know, as it was mentioned before, where they actually need to go. And on the how do you actually make things happen? It's been mentioned before, but I can only re-emphasize what Johanna just said before. We run our digital manufacturing event since 2015, and it almost always, and it did again last week, ended up with the key thing are the skills. The key thing are the people and the skills that people actually have. And if you think it's what our head of future skills said in the event last week, it typically takes about 10 years in the UK that what is taught in universities is actually trickling down into the colleges, into the vocational training. And I think that hasn't been mentioned maybe enough today. It's not only about training a lot of academics, it is really how can you get skills training, upskilling across the whole of the population. I think that is a key thing, and that is what we experience not only in Germany, but in the UK very much as well. And always the other big question is, when do you start to engage? And engaging at the age of 16 or 18 years is far too late. Almost everybody is basically now saying you have to start to engage and encourage young students at an age of maybe 7, 8, something like that. So that are very important things. And I think when you come to people, there is a big opportunity for Ghana that I see as well, because we live in a change, in a time of massive change. It's not only COVID. COVID's learned us a lot, but if you look at all the things about climate change, about sustainability, about resilience, where COVID learned a lot. We learned a lot from, hopefully. I think particularly the sustainability agenda brings a lot of opportunities for Ghana as well. And what the point is, in the end, if you look, you maybe see some people or maybe some countries in front of you, but if you, with this changing world, if you look again, you maybe see they're not in front of you because they've gone into the wrong direction. And I think that's what I personally would see, that Ghana has this massive big opportunity in this time of change to actually get into the right direction and do a lot in the way of sustainability and use the resources that you have in the country and add the value there instead of shipping a lot of things through the world, which end up as the waste. So create a value where you are is probably a big part of more sustainability in the world.
All right. Thank you so much. So very interesting perspectives, how academia needs to change, what the private sector needs to do to connect, how the government agencies should be maybe doubling down on creating these centers of excellence, making sure that there's inclusivity in the digital transformation agenda. Very interesting comments there, Harold. This idea of focusing on the why, what the outcomes are, the how. I know the Vice President mentioned a tech park. You know, what specific programs are we focused on, and so forth. We don't have a lot of time left, so I'm going to go around very quickly for each of you to maybe focus on what's next and how you're going to measure success in your sector. Very, very, very briefly, and then we'll go to the Q&A session. So anybody can start. What's next? How are we going to measure success? This is supposed to be a 10-year program, this conference. So a year from now, what will you be telling us that you achieved? So anybody can start.
All right. So
very briefly.
Okay, good. So I've written 4 things that I would like to share. And the first is what's next? Streamlined digital initiatives, right? As the government, you want to be able to streamline all these initiatives, have a one place for a user or a citizen to access the services and the goods that the government will be providing. Now, I think what we lack, or somewhat what we can do better, is the new and different way approach towards the innovation, right? We mentioned earlier that we have to be more inclusive and, use this co-creation way of problem identification and design and development and all that. And after that, we want to be able to make the data that we are collecting in all this innovation and digitalization is all about collecting data. This data that we are collecting, we want to make it harvestable so that in the future we can use it for research purposes and other uses in a controlled manner guided by the data protection laws. And the fourth thing is training. And we mentioned, Joanna mentioned here, we need training to train the critical mass in a public service where I am, and also the private citizens, so that in the future, as the government is rolling out all these initiatives, everybody will be able, by the training that we've been given, will be able to access and provide these services that the government is putting out. For us, at where I come from, the AITI case, we are doing quite a bit of that, providing digital skills programs. We actually have a center in Bolgatanga which is focused on free and open source software, and we have our center in Sunyani, which is also doing the IoT and all the other rest. So we are doing our bit to help the government move, and then since we don't have time, I'll leave it here, but of course there will be other opportunities to talk to our booth outside and then get some more information on what the AITI case is doing. But thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yes, Prof.
All right, so I'd like to go next. I think Joanna touched on one, which is how do we engage the informal sector? I think we need to do some more investment on the AI side to make sure that we can dummy down what digitization transformation is to people who are not in the formal sector. And what I mean by that is, if a farmer in Kumasi takes a snapshot of an armyworm, the system should be able to tell him or her in tree what disease it is, where do they get the chemicals from, and what is the methodology of constituting that drug to kill whatever virus it is. So we need to use technology to integrate them into this transformational journey. So that's one. I think we should not shy away from having degrees that specifically describe what we are trying to do. Are we able to offer a degree in entrepreneurship and innovation, entrepreneurship and digitization, so that it's much more targeted to what we want to sustain? I also think that, look, beyond this transformation journey we've initiated, we need to figure out how to leverage digitization in general. We still import spare parts into this country. There are technologies today that will transform any spare parts in this country so that we can produce it locally. So I want us to start looking holistically how we can engage digital transformation to also industrialize. So once we can tell who you are as a citizen, what you do for a living, where you live, whether you are paying your taxes or not, when the police stop you for speeding, we know exactly who you are. Beyond that, we need to be able to produce the medical devices, the medical equipment, and these are all within the purview of digital transformation.
So you see collaborations with the Kofi Annan Institute? Is this something we can hold you accountable for next year?
Sure. We work together on that. That's why we're here, right? Yes. And just a quick note that we have an AI center actually in Sunyani. So and I just saw my director of research and innovation sitting there. I'm sure he was nodding. Oh, my boss forgot to mention the AI center we have. So yeah, we do have an AI center. So we are doing some good things, but we can find out more from our booth outside.
Right.
Sure.
Samuel, what can the private sector draw from all of that?
It's quite interesting. I was listening to two gentlemen, and we have an innovation center as well called Ghana Innovation Hub, which is funded by the World Bank and the Ministry of Communication. And skills development is like at the top of it, right? So I think the doers of the actors and the doers of digital transformation is key. We need to have a goal, maybe create a target and say, okay, by so and so, we'll have about 100,000 digital champions trained and jobs placed, right? So there's no way of metering how many jobs has been created in the digital ecosystem today, right? So we need a number, I think, to hold ourselves accountable so that by 2030, if you will, we have a number and say, okay, we've achieved that. And these numbers are coming from these segments of the industry, right? So that's number one. The second bit I'm seeing is Ghana is still a heavily import country. We don't manufacture service. We don't manufacture cybersecurity hardware or code, right? So almost 90% of everything we're doing, talking about in digital, is dependent on somebody else, right? So in any world, when you want to build anything and your raw material that you need to use to build is dependent on third party, your speed of execution is hampered. So what I like to say is by 2030, if possible, we should have an ecosystem of the third party independent software vendors or OEMs that we're working with. We should have an ecosystem for them so that the partnership is more targeted. There has to be a collaborative incentives created. Part of the gains they're making in the country should be redirected towards this growth of employment, hub support, or what have you. And maybe tariffs should be removed away from them in terms of the import process, right? There's a lot of digital waste in Ghana in terms of hardware, printers, phones, you name it. These OEMs are doing business, but nobody's really policing them, right? Nobody's really looking at their activities and saying, hey, we want you to be part of our ecosystem. Let's play ball together properly. The last bit in terms of private sector that we're working on is access to private. So if you look at private sector's budget allocation for technical projects, most of them, if they don't have the budget, they cut things out, right? So what we're doing is trying to find out a creative way to create a fund to support digital transformation projects. We're bringing capital from the outside world, not for venture funding, but more for digital projects, right? And we believe the development organizations can facilitate in co-creating this capital pool that the private sector can use to transform their businesses, which in turn can go into the rural markets, which can help the people in the less privileged parts of the country. So those are the three things that I like to say could help. So in summary, access to skills and having a target. Next is trying to formalize the dependents or parties, OEMs and ISVs that we work with. And then lastly, a new, what we call new capital that will facilitate the private sector's ambitions in digital transformation.
Thank you so much. And Joanna, listening to all of that, what would you say they should do and not do? If you could put it that way, advice.
Let me rephrase the question.
Okay, advice. What advice do you have for this gentleman?
Let me rephrase the question.
If we can have we're going to have a short Q&A session, so if you could start lining up by the mic, it would be great.
Okay. So very briefly about kind of how to measure success, I also wrote down a number of things that have also been mentioned about kind of, I would add the number of Ghanaian innovations scaled to Africa and beyond that we can measure. I think the number of people online, the number of jobs, digital jobs created, or people in the informal sector who have increased their income through digital means are some of the examples. And I believe GDIW will bring at the end of the week the answer to what's next. And what to rephrase the question, I can say what we can kind of support, what we can bring to the table, and that is the facilitation of stakeholder coordination and to provide a platform for this at a national and Pan-African level. So at a Pan-African level with Smart Africa Alliance, many different African countries working here on topics like payment, digital payments and artificial intelligence. And so facilitating this. Another example, also kind of to show what is going on here. We have partners from Rwanda here, and tomorrow there is an exchange between the ICT Chamber of Rwanda and the Chamber of Technology of Ghana. So that's another example of how we facilitate stakeholder coordination. The second thing we can bring to the table is also to support in capacity building for intermediaries. Like for example, a whole lot of work we do with innovation hubs in the country, also in not beyond Accra, to support in strengthening organizational structures and technical skills, and then strengthening local innovation, digital innovation. And I'm happy to further discuss with Sam about this fund, although we are also, I must say, providing technical cooperation and don't come so much with funding, but we can kind of facilitate that. And we have also in 2019 kind of brought investors in to meet and match with Ghanaian startups. So that's also some of the examples what we can bring to the table And I think talking about how to measure success, I think I'll briefly also speak about the ecosystem assessment, or hand over to Gordon to do that himself, because I think that's...
I'll mention that in the closing comments.
Perfect. Then
you so much.
I'll not do that.
Right, okay. All right, so we have one question. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Mardia from Zongovation Hub. A straightforward question. We are talking about digital transformation agenda, and my question is, where is the starting point? Where should the government start? Because do I have to finish primary, go to junior high school and SHS before I go and then say I'm going to do data science or maybe artificial intelligence? Should there be a starting point at that formative age?
So a starting point for citizens, you mean, to engage in the agenda?
From government, actually.
From government, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's take the second question.
Hello, everyone.
So I think we'll only take 3 questions and then, yeah. So go ahead, sir.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kanessa from the Digital Transformation Center, Kigali. And my question mostly goes out to private sector and education sector, yeah? So it's the way I look at it is there's demand and then there's supply. So is there a way for education sector to evolve into a design that is basically based on an industrial initiative where, for example, at the university level, you teach students to start looking at what has been done already elsewhere, as opposed to the old way of you need to learn this and then maybe figure out how you're going to use it for innovation, because they say innovation, but is there a way for the private sector to create basically an industrial initiative? Okay, I give a live example.
I think it's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm giving a live example. So private sector has several industries in different categories that are innovating, right? Like the banking sector, fintech, for example. Then you create an industrial initiative and you say, all students that are going to school in university right now, learning about fintech, should maybe join us for practicums and try out their models from an actual industry, right? And so the education sector starts to learn from there with basically a system that works in the actual environment where we live, not like the theoretical way. For example, mobile money is very successful in Africa because when it was tried elsewhere, they had Visa cards and other stuff, and they didn't think it would work. But then the industrial initiative of saying, let's try this out there in the village, see if this works, made it work. So is there a way for education sector to plug into the private sector and start having what we call the practicums or the communities of practice, where students, by the time they leave university, they have actually tried out most of their innovation ideas in a real environment, not theoretically.
Okay, thank you so much. Last question.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Kofi Asarabrakun, CEO, Mansa Musa Foundation. Please, I would like to entreat all of the panelists about the informal sector. Please, it's really important because in Ghana, almost half of the population does not have access to internet. So I would love to see coming down to the people down there because they are the chunk of the population. So if you can get them on board, indeed, we'll make a progress. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, so let me take the first one, and I can only speak to what I'm doing. So at my university, we made it mandatory for every student coming on that campus to take a course on Python. We think we should actually start teaching kids at very early stages to program. Programming is no longer a course from my perspective. I think it's a tool. So we need to start arming our kids at a very, very early stage, how to start using some of these systems that are inevitably going to become part of our lives. We have actually introduced artificial intelligence. I think the first university to introduce a bachelor's degree in artificial intelligence in Ghana. And if we're following up on that, we expect all our students to undertake 4 internships before they graduate. So what we are going to need now in this ecosystem, this newly evolving ecosystem, is how do we match make our students to industries where they can actually learn, as you said. Now, there has always been a conversation, an ongoing conversation, about a chasm, a supposed chasm between industry and academia. And my contention has always been that there is actually no industry, because if there were, there won't be a chasm. In places where academia has been so useful to industrial transformation, it is actually the industries that chase academia for new ideas, new insights. When I worked for Siemens, some of our fundamental innovations came from University of Erlangen. So if there are functioning industries that are out there to make money, to generate revenue, to be at the forefront of technology, there will not be a chasm, because they will know academia will be their strategic partners. So in short, I think we should all make an effort. I mean, I know GIZ is working with IIPGH, which is the board that I chair, the ICT group in Ghana, and kids are learning coding. My kids are online every weekend taking courses. I think this has to become another way of doing business. Now, on the IT side, I really don't know what to say to that, you know, because I
can take that. But I think generally, right, speaking, Doc and Prof, is there's a lack of confidence in the educational system, right? And it's predominantly because the educational system has not measured what the output is. I think somebody was talking about demand and supply. If I'm looking for 100 data science students, the question is, which university do I go to? If I'm looking for developers today, which educational institution should I go to, right? So the demand side is high in the private sector, but the supply side is very ambiguous. There's no clear-cut churning out of talent, right? And I think the lady who asked the first question was saying, where do we start? If the input devices, the learning methods and the devices we're using is still pen and paper, I think thanks to BIC, who has been making pens here for I don't know how many years, they've done a great job. I mean, to me, that's the biggest technology innovation in Ghana, right? A pen. Because you cannot, if you weigh the input devices we have in Ghana between pens and keyboards or mobile devices, pen is still rating about 90% in the ecosystem. So kids cannot learn if they can't share information as much, right? So access to tablets, access to input devices that are digital in nature would make the kids familiar with the innovation that we're trying to get them to be comfortable with and create future jobs. So I think that's where it starts. That has to be democratized. There's a huge digital divide in that level, at the high school level. Obviously Digital City is doing well, but the question is, what's the percentage of children or kids who have access to that type of education, right? So I think the digital divide is still a big issue. And the last bit, which has to do with connectivity, internet access, we're huge fans of connectivity. We believe that policy has to move in that area. And I think the OEMs, the ISVs who are doing business in Ghana, a portion of their revenues could be directed in rural internet connectivity. And that's why we have to reorganize who we're importing from. I mean, the telcos are making money, right? Ericsson, Huawei, all these big vendors are making a lot of money in the country, but the output of where their dividends are going to is not being tracked in terms of their impact, social impact. So there's a huge work, because government doesn't have all the capital to do that work. So I think that's, and lastly, before I finish, there's a connectivity issue between private sector and the educational network in terms of the talent to supply demand. So we're working on Africa Digital Talent Network, which is almost like your Uber equivalent to talent, connecting to all the hubs and all the educational networks and the private sector. So when they're looking for talent, we can basically be the broker to support that from our innovation hub.
Right. I'm getting a lot of indicators for us to close the panel. Last words?
A very small bit on the informal sector, on the last question. So yeah, the informal sector in Ghana is huge, and there are ideas and plans on how to how to solve this challenge, to bring digital and entrepreneurial skills to, is it market women, artisans, by kind of simple bookkeeping, selling products online, mobile payments and insurances. So yeah, there is a program in the pipeline on that.
All right. So just very briefly, a few keywords that I heard: skills, right? A lot of training, a lot of orientation. Let's set targets and make sure that we have measures and indicators that will track our activities and so forth. Let's formalize some of these systems, have a framework, a blueprint, and let's be creative about channeling capital to support these projects and initiatives. And we should do all of this while leaving no one behind. Good summary? All right. And the bit that you wanted me to add on, we have a survey going on trying to capture the health of the innovation ecosystem using what we call the Rainforest Canvas, Rainforest Scorecard. So if you find this in your inbox, please fill it out for us and come to our sessions to learn more. Help me in thanking Professor Magbagonlori, President and Provost of Academic City University College, Mr. Yabua Afari, the Director General of Kofi Annan ICT Center, Samuel Amano, CEO and founder of Blue Space, Ms. Johanna Hatton, Component Manager of Digital Transformation Center, GIZ, and of course, Mr. Harold Egner, the Chief Engineer of MTC UK. Thank you so much, and we look forward to continuing the conversation.
So much. Since you've thanked everybody, let me thank you, Dr. Gordon, for an incredible job moderating. You have taken some of my work today, so thank you. And thank you to our panelists. You may take your seats. It is a very exciting conversation, wouldn't you agree? And I think it's incredible that the panel that we have this morning is representative of the 4 main quadrants that we are trying to bring together through the Digital Innovation Week. We have government, we have academia, we have the development partners, and we have private sector. Just to let our online participants know, we haven't forgotten about you. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we will address them. Where you may ask, we have an exciting new innovation that we are introducing. It's called the GDIW, Ghana Digital Innovation TV. Throughout the entire week, we are going to be interviewing our panelists, we are going to be speaking to guests, we are going to have the opportunity to speak to more people in depth. This is going to be streamed live on our YouTube channel, so we are looking forward to seeing you there. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we'll have the opportunity to speak more to our panelists on GDIW TV. Now, I'd like to invite another one of our government partners. He's an exciting gentleman. I know that he's put together a lovely presentation to share, and he's going to be digging a little deeper. A lot of us have been saying, how are we going to execute? I had a question about what is the starting point? How does government want to initiate some of these initiatives that we've talked about? So he's going to be shedding a bit more light on how we can execute the digital transformation agenda. He is in the person of Solomon Richardson. He is the Director of Technical Services for the National Information Technology Agency. Solomon, I'm sorry, thank you for joining us. Solomon, I don't know what happened. Solomon, hello. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Hello? Please, can you hear me? Okay. Good day to you all. Yes, as I was introduced, my name is Solomon Kofi Richardson. I head the Technical Services Unit at the National Information Technology Agency, NITA. NITA is the ICT regulator for Ghana, and then also the agency within government responsible for the implementation of the digitalization agenda in the country. So all these digital initiatives and things like that, we have a very major role that we play as the ICT regulator and implementer in the country. So the topic that I've been given seems quite huge, but the time is also very, very limited. I'll try my very best to deal with it within the short time that has been allocated. Please, can I have the presentation? Are we ready? Okay. So the topic is co-creating Ghana's digital transformation on a robust national digital architecture. Robust national digital architecture. I mean, we've started this whole digitization initiative. Everybody is doing this, both the private sector, government, and then all that. But sometimes you wonder, the private sector, government, how do we create that kind of architecture? She was saying that the implementation, how do we really implement? What kind of architecture do we adopt so that you sitting in the private sector knows that this is the business that I am in? How do I plug in? The government agencies, how do they plug in? This is a very complicated ecosystem so far as the ICT environment is concerned. It involves a lot of technologies, it involves different aspects of it, but how do we have a very uniform blueprint or architecture to make sure that every player knows that if I have to plug in, this is what I need to do to plug in. This is the area that I need to plug in, and that you don't need any special team to come and take you through. The architecture is there, the blueprint is there, you take it and then you now develop according to those architecture, the architecture and blueprint that has been developed. So, okay, we all know this very framework very well. People Process Technology Framework. When you talk about technology and all that there is, you cannot do without these three aspects. There is the people aspect, there's the process aspect, there's the technology aspect. And so you can summarize this whole digitalization architecture with this very framework at a very high level. At a very high level. So then that means that our architecture for that the nation will have to adopt must take care of the people, must take care of the processes, and then must also take care of the technologies in there. So if you are doing something related to that of the people, that of the process, and that of the technology, you know exactly where to fit. So once you have this framework being considered so far as your architecture is concerned, then you know that you're on the right track. Please, let's move on. Now, right now, what government is doing is trying to develop this kind of architecture. What are the components of the architecture that we are talking about? I, most of the time, will even want to move from the word architecture to that of blueprint. Normally, when you talk of architecture, it limits your scope a little bit, and then people normally think of infrastructure the very moment you talk about architecture. But blueprint goes way beyond just the infrastructure, just the application component. So if you want to talk about the component, let's look at technology, for instance. Sorry. Let's go back, please. Yes. So you look at technology. Technology, yes, then you can talk of the infrastructure, you can talk of the application, you can talk about other aspects of technology. So then that means that we have to develop an architecture or a blueprint for the technological component of digitalization. So you need to take that one. Then you have data and information. Data and information. With all these digitalization and then all that, the blood that drives all these things is the data and information. And so if you don't have the right architecture for your data and information layer, then that means that you've gotten it wrong. It is within this layer that you consider things like data governance. It is this layer that you consider things like you consider things, you even look at your issue of data protection, though it has an element in regulatory and legal framework, but the data layer is a very important one that you need to make sure that your data architecture is really well taken care of. So it is also one component. Security, most of the time, you can consider it under technology, but security has become a very topical area that you want to set it aside and give it the needed attention that is required. So you have the technology, you have data and information, you have security, and then this component, legal and regulatory framework. The legal and regulatory framework. That's why I said that I want to use the word blueprint, because when you mention architecture, you might necessarily look at just the infrastructure application component. But we are looking at all these components that we are talking about over here, how they will interact with each other, how they affect each other so far as the digitalization digitalization is concerned. So you look at the legal and regulatory. Do we have the right legal environment? Do we have the necessary regulations around? Because if you look at this component, in the middle of it is the citizen. All these conversations we are having over here is all geared towards the citizen, the consumer. So they are the most important. Governance, everything is to make sure that citizens are better served, consumers are better served. And so you need to have the right regulatory, the right legal framework and environment to better serve this citizen that we are talking about. Then there is the M&E component. This is a very interesting one. A lot of the time you just deploy projects, you deploy initiatives and stuff like that, and then there is no framework on how you check. I heard Michael Amano, when he was talking, he said that let us agree that we will want to do this number of this activity within this period of time, so we can check and make sure that how well are we doing, how far have we come. We developing the national architecture thing that you should have an M&E architecture as well, to make sure that at any point in time, there are certain indexes that you are tracking. There are certain indexes that has been assigned to certain government agencies, certain bodies who are tracking all these indexes and reporting on them, so that at certain point in time, we can all go back and go and see that, okay, we started from this point, this is where we've gotten to, we are doing well or we are not doing well. Should we change our strategy, and then all that. So for the architecture that we are developing, we are looking at the M&E component as a very important one. I mean, one of the things that we are looking at is the Digital Economy Index, where we are hoping that every year it will be published annually. And then we can tell that these are the indexes that we are tracking. So far as the digitalization of our economy is concerned, then we can tell that between the year 2021 to the year 2025, this is how far we've come. This is how all the digital initiatives have impacted on these aspects of the economy, on these individuals, on our educational sector, and our commerce sector. So that is what we want to look at. So we want to make sure that the M&E component of it is also taken care of. Can I have my presentation, please? Okay. Apart from the M&E component, the other component that you want to consider when you are looking at the building the national AI is the standards and interoperability. Standards and interoperability. You don't want anybody doing anything. You want to make sure that there are certain standards that can be monitored, standards that you can just check and make sure that people are really abiding, people are really going by those standards. And then there's also interoperability. You go and buy this hardware, I go and buy that hardware, we cannot share data because they don't interoperate, and then all that. So we want to make sure that there is also the standards and interoperability framework that guides all our adoption so far as digitalization is concerned. Then you want to also consider the issue of skills and innovation. Right now, everybody will tell you about the digital divide that exists. It is so huge. At some point in time, when I was doing some research on digital divide, I was shocked even how advanced country like the United Kingdom, US, the effort and the resources that they are committing to addressing the issue of digital divide, then I told myself that if these people are committing these resources, then we really do have a lot to do as a country, because our own is very huge. So that component as well, that's the skills and innovation. The skills component of it, saying that if you are not careful, this digitalization thing will end up building a kwashiorkor kind of digital economy, where we've built all the beautiful things in places, but the citizens cannot really use it. Or you've built all these sort of things, and then you realize that the businesses, those who are really benefiting, are international companies. These big tech companies that are outside, sitting outside of Ghana, they are the ones benefiting. So our architecture that we have to build must make sure that the local businesses, the SMEs, are not being left behind. The local innovators, if I see Deridine over here, he's very passionate about local companies and then how they benefit, they take advantage of all this. Our architecture should make sure that these local companies are being empowered. They are being given the right tools to make sure that they play major parts in there. So these are some of the components that the major component that we are considering in developing the national architecture. I am sure that if you look at different jurisdictions, they might consider other components as well. But all the components you can consider under one of these or the other. So this is the component that we are considering in developing the national architecture. This whole digitalization and then the national architecture is being driven by the National Digital Economy blueprint that is being developed. And then there is also, yes, the National Digital Economy Blueprint that is being developed. I am sure within some few months it will be finalized, and then that will lead the way in all the things that we're going to do within this space. Now, I took one of the, this is the high level architecture, but then various architectures are going to come out of it. So I took one of such architectures just to let you see how Ghana is going, the things that are being done in that regard. Please, the next. Yes. So this architecture over here is more like the identity management. So when you talk about identity management, when you are talking about digitalization, identity management is key, is major. You want to know who is doing what at any point in time. And then if you look at it, the national ID infrastructure is core to all this for when we talk about our identity management. So you have the national ID infrastructure. To the left of it, you can see the private sector. So the private sector plays in it. You can see the GovNet. It talks about GovNet. That talks about the government, most of the government agencies. You have DVLA in there. You have all the government agencies, a number of them. You have even the security agencies. You find them in there. You have the financial institutions in there. So different institutions. Our judiciary is in there. So you find out that we've done this architecture, so that is how come nowadays you've heard that almost everything they are talking about, NIA. If you don't have your national ID, you can't do this. The last time what I heard was if for the public sector workers, if you don't have your national ID, you will not even be able to draw your salary. So this is the architecture so far as our identity management is concerned. And so this is now being integrated into almost everything. You don't have national ID, you can't apply for a passport. You don't have national ID, you cannot go for health insurance. You don't have national ID, you can't do anything. So for all the architectures that we are developing, there's going to be the high-level architecture that is going to take into consideration the components that I mentioned. Then from there is going to drill down to various aspects. You're going to have low-level architectures and things like that. And these architectures, once they are developed, are made available, everybody has access to it, and then you deploy your systems according to. What will happen then when this architecture has been deployed is that you're going to have a lot of regulators now in making sure that whoever is playing within their space is abiding by this architecture. So if I am a regulator and I come around to audit your system, I am auditing the system based on the standards and the interoperability framework probably, to make sure that you have deployed your system, you are managing your system based on, and even the technologies that you are importing is based on the architecture that we have developed. We don't want an environment that is chaotic, that everybody is doing what they think they like, everybody is doing, because at the end of the day, the citizen must be protected. The citizen must be taken care of. You have to make sure that the data protection component of it is well taken care of, and then these regulators will insist and ensure. So government is doing a lot so far as within government, its own house is concerned. If you see the cybersecurity recently declared a lot of government agencies as critical, a lot of infrastructure as security infrastructure, critical security infrastructure. So these, once they've been declared like that, there are some standards that are being pushed to them to make sure that they bring their system up to scratch. The private sector will be no different. There are regulators, whichever space that you are playing. If you are playing within the banking sector, the Bank of Ghana will ensure that you abide by these architectures. If you are in the insurance sector, if you are in the security sector, every system that you are using to deliver service, you are using to deliver your mandate, must now align with the national architecture that we are developing. Other than that, there will be chaos. And you know, when it comes to this environment, digitalization, trust is very, very important. And when you want to talk about acceptance, then trust, security, and some of these things must well be taken care of. Everybody want to be sure that when I am on there and I say that I am doing this and this provider says he's providing this, it is exactly what I am getting. What I used to get when I will walk to DVLA physically to go and do something, I want to be assured that when I'm sitting behind my computer and I do all that, I get the same result. I get the same result, and even better. So NITA, through the Ministry of Communication, of course, with all the efforts coming in from the Vice President office as well, is working towards developing this architecture. And we'll be very glad at some point in time we will have this industry stakeholder engagement on this to take your input. So I entreat you to look out for these events when they come up, and then get on board, make sure that you are contributing, make sure that you are giving your input in these areas, so that together we can build that kind of architecture that can take us from where we are right now to being sure that now when they talk about digital economy and all that, it's not as if we are lagging behind. The architecture itself needs to be forward-looking to make sure that we are always among the leaders and not trying to catch up. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Solomon. Can I catch you before you run away? It's very comforting. It's very comforting to see all of the work that is going into the digital architecture. Thank you for sharing that. If I may ask, the Ghana Digital Innovation Week is looking at a 10-year implementation plan. We want to see a lot of these conversations come to fruition in 10 years. Where can we place this architecture within the 10-year journey? Are we looking at a year, 2 years, 3 years?
Oh, for the architecture itself, I am very sure that Within probably by first quarter of next year, this architecture will be out. There's a lot of work that has gone on. We have a number of consultants that we are working with. We are very well advanced. Just as I said, we will also have to engage more with the industry. So we'll be doing industry and stakeholder engagement to take their input to whatever we have done, because their input is also very important, and then acceptability also once you get them contributing. So this one, I think that by first quarter of next year, we will have this document completed, and then we should be good to go.
Fantastic. First quarter of next year. That's very soon. We are looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Solomon. And thank you on behalf of the Innovation Week to Nita for all of the work. We're just about wrapping up the kick-off session. I'd like to invite another very, very important gentleman. He is the special advisor to the Minister of the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. He is in the person of Mr. Oliver Boakye, and he's here to share with us the STI policy, what we can look forward to, what they are working towards. I know a few of you have some questions as well, so feel free to put them in the chat. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. Mr. Boakye, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ms. Moderator or Ms. MC. I want to take the opportunity to welcome all of you that have managed to join us here this morning. My name is Oliver Boakye, and currently I serve as the Special Advisor to the Minister of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. And I've also been part of the planning committee for the Ghana Digital Innovation Week. I hope my presentation is ready. If you can put it on the screen for us. Thank you very much. When we took office in 2017, that was under the ministership of Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng. I was serving him in the same capacity as I'm doing today. And we realized that Ghana was actually lacking too far behind, because when we look at our peers like South Korea, Singapore, and others, who we were at the same par with when we gained independence in 1957, you realize that something had gone wrong. And so we started looking for some answers to find out what is going on. And that is when we started putting together what we are calling the Science, Technology, and Innovation Policy. We have done quite a bit. And some of the things that you are seeing today are culminations or results of what we've managed to do so far with the policy, even though it is still evolving. Yes, as a result of the things that we are doing, we decided that we are going to put science, technology, and innovation at the center of national development. So that is what is driving everything else that we are doing. And the policy that is being developed or has been developed to support this strategy of putting science, technology, and innovation at the center of national development is resting on 7 strategic pillars. And so in the next few minutes, that have been given me, I want to take you through those 7 pillars. And for each one of them, we are going to talk about the rationale for selecting that as a pillar for science, technology, and innovation policy. And so for each one, you look at the what. What is it? What is that pillar? Why? Why do we think it is important as a pillar in our STI policy? And how are we implementing it? And then I'll also tell you a little bit about where we are with this implementation so far. Okay, so pillar 1 is what we call the Presidential Oversight and Advisory Council. Now, if you look at the kind of government that we have, you realize that there's a great deal of power at the top. That means that if you are looking at a very, very important concept, such as the leveraging on science, technology, and innovation for your national development, it requires presidential oversight. If the president's eye is not in it, you are not going to go too far. And so the first thing that we thought was important was to have uninterrupted executive oversight over the strategy to leverage on science, technology, and innovation for our national development. And so what we came out to do in pursuit of that was to ensure that the president was always on top of things that are happening in the science, technology, and innovation space. If the president is not informed, it's very, very difficult for him to make decisions on budgets and other things. And so we decided that there will be a Presidential Advisory Council on Science, Technology, and Innovation, or PACSTI, that will be there to provide independent and non-partisan advice to the president when it comes to matters of science, technology, and innovation. And so in 2019, the president accepted that recommendation and established a 9-member Presidential Advisory Council on Science, Technology, and Innovation. Frankly, you would think that such a body will be known to the citizens of this country and will be functioning. Yes, the council has been established, but there are challenges, most of which have to do with funding. As we go along, you understand why and what we have done to try and address that challenge. So that's the first pillar. Now, pillar number 2, pillar number 2 has to do with a lot of the things that have been already said in the course of this morning's presentations, panel discussions, and so on. And that has to do with collaboration and coordination. You know, we have so many ministries that are doing so many different things. A lot of them are being duplicated by many institutions. And we are doing this with very, very scanty resources. So what is happening is that what A is doing, B doesn't know anything about it. And what B is doing, C doesn't know anything about it. Matter of fact, if you hear or listen to those of us who have been part of this planning committee or the Trilateral Cooperation Program, which has brought this Ghana Digital Innovation Week, you will see that in almost all the sectors that are represented, everybody is doing something about innovation, but we didn't know anything about what each other was doing. And so there's a need for proper collaboration among the sectors, whether it's Ministry of Communication and Digitization, Ministry of Agric, and Ministry of Energy, and so on. And so what we decided to do was to set up an inter-ministerial coordination council. Now, you might think that there are too many councils, but this is critical. And through the work that we've been doing over the past 2 years, involving these different sectors, we can see the collaboration coming together. And what we are seeing this week is a direct result of the collaboration effort that we have started, and which I know is working and is going to work even better in the years that are ahead. So who are going to be part of this interministerial council? There are some ministries that are, by their nature, ones that need to pay a great deal of attention to science, technology, and innovation. And as I go on, you understand why. And so some of those ministries are, of course, MESTI, Trade and Industry, Food and Agriculture, Education, Communication and Digitization, Energy, Local Government, Lands and Natural Resources, Roads and Highways, and then Ministry of Transport. So all of these are going to be part of the Interministerial Coordination Council on Science, Technology, and Innovation. But of course, every ministry or every sector is going to somehow be part of it and benefit from it. Now, the third pillar, and you saw something about that, is actually what we are all talking about today, which is why have we not benefited from the investments that government has made in the development of infrastructure, in the training of scientists and engineers, in paying salaries, giving them jobs, and so on for so many years? What have we gained from that? And the answer was, we do not try to transform output from our research labs into products and services, as they do in all those other countries who are leveraging on science, technology, and innovation for their national development. And so we saw the need to create a partnership between government, academia, and industry. We also realized that there's a need for coordination within the research and innovation ecosystem that I've mentioned already. And the result is the Ghana Innovation and Research Commercialization Center, or GEC Center, which we decided to establish as a unit about 2.5 years ago. Now, as a result of the efforts that we put in there, we started getting collaboration from all these other sectors who are part of the Ghana Digital Innovation Week, and also the Trilateral Cooperation Program. And so the Ghana Innovation and Research Commercialization Center is supposed to be providing support for and strengthening the innovation ecosystem. We want to transform into the Ghana Research and Innovation Agency in the future, so that it becomes an independent body sitting in the center and coordinating all the activities, including what our colleagues from the Ministry of Communication and Digitization are doing, what the Ministry of Transport, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, what all of those ministries are doing. This agency is going to be sitting in the center and doing all the coordination. Now, as I said before, the Ghana Digital Innovation Week is a direct result of the collaboration and coordination that is already taking place among us. Now, pillar number 4 has to do with funding. You know, if you look at the top countries within the Global Innovation Index, or the GII. In fact, the last edition is GII 2021. Ghana is 110 out of 130 countries whose innovation profiles were examined. All those countries that are at the top, in fact, they are the top 10 economies in the world. The US, Germany, Sweden, Switzerland, and so on. They are allocating a very, very high percentage of their GDP to research and innovation. In other words, they are putting their monies where their mouth is, and it's yielding the results. At the moment, Ghana only allocates 0.25%, not 1%, not even 0.5%. It's 0.25% of our GDP to research and innovation. And in fact, most of it goes into the payment of salaries for our staff. And so, really, we are not doing much in terms of looking at science, technology, and innovation as a basis or as foundation for our national development. And so we decided that we need to let the government realize this and allocate enough funding for us. So that started the crusade to try and get a bill passed in Parliament that will ensure that annually we have substantial amount of funding to enable us to support research and innovation. And through a collaboration between the Ministry of Education and MESTI, a bill was submitted in 2019 known as the National Research Fund Bill. The goal was to use it to support the development of the research innovation ecosystem, to establish research and innovation support programs, and to build the human capacity of our people in terms of science, technology, and innovation. And there are many other things that this fund is going to be used for. And I'm very, very happy to announce that in 2020, that bill was passed. So it has become law. It's Act 1056. That's the National Research Fund Act 1056, and it was passed in 2020. We are now waiting for its specific implementation, which means that this fund will be established and it will be implemented so that there will be disbursement of funds. So this is a very, very important milestone for us, because now we are going to have resources to be able to support the PAXTs, to be able to establish the technology centers and other things that we are talking about. So that's pillar number 4. Pillar number 5 has to do with STEM. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Today, if you go into our educational institutions, especially at the tertiary level, only about 30% of our students are engaged in courses that are related to science, technology, and innovation. 70% are in the humanities. Now, if we are going to change our fortunes and rise towards the skies, that has to change. And so we are collaborating with the Ministry of Education to reform the curricula of this country so that right from basic school up to the tertiary level, emphasis is going to be laid on science, technology, engineering, mathematics, innovation, and entrepreneurship, what we call STEMI. And we are going to create technology centers around the country so that facilities will be brought to the people close to where they are in areas where there's competitive advantage so that they can have access to training, access to consultancy, and access to facilities where they can prototype and pilot some of their research output and innovations. Now, you will see today during the exhibition that several innovations have been showcased by individuals, student groups, and startup companies. We want to encourage them, and we want to provide the support systems that will enable them to test these innovations and also bring them together with investors so that eventually they will be able to scale up what they are doing and be able to create jobs, employ people, and help us to raise our economies so that we also be counted among those who are benefiting from science, technology, and innovation. Pillar number 6 has to do with legislation. You know, in all these things that we are talking about, if for some strange reason the people of Ghana decide that this government that is doing so much in science, technology, and innovation, they are fed up with us and they want something new. I know it's not going to happen, but let's say it happens. We don't want whoever is coming in to decide that they want to throw this aside and start something new. And so we want to back it with legislation so that it becomes law. So whoever comes after us will be obligated to continue, improve it if there's a need to do that, but not to just throw it away so that we don't reap the benefits from it. And so that is the 6th pillar. The final pillar, pillar number 7, has to do with the choices that we are making. And that is where are our priorities right now. And in this country, and at this stage of our national development, we needed to make sure that we are not pushing our resources after too many things. So we looked at areas where we have competitive advantage and areas where we are experiencing extreme challenges, where we need to apply our knowledge and our strengths and our skills to address. And so we came up with about 8 strategic, what we call strategic technology areas that we want to put emphasis and make sure that we are allocating resources towards them. And the first one is agric and agro-processing. Basically, this country is about 70% an agricultural country. There's no way that we can sidestep agric and then go looking at other things. And so that happens to be an area of competitive advantage, and we want to continue to support it and be able to apply science, technology, and innovation to increase productivity in agriculture and be able to add value to what we produce, which is what some of our presenters have already said, that Ghana needs to make sure that we are adding value to our natural resources and not shipping everything in raw form, because that doesn't help us. The second one is manufacturing. No country has ever developed that didn't have the capacity to design and build things for themselves. is extremely critical. We have ignored that for a very long time, but we've realized that we need to do that. And so manufacturing happens to be one of the strategic technology areas, and we've already started doing things in that. MESTI is now, under the Ghana Cares program, establishing a foundry and machine tooling center, a state-of-the-art facility that will enable us to design basic tools for agriculture, for the mining industry, and for the automobile industry, which happens to be one that a lot of foreign investors are pursuing and putting their assembly plants in the country. We need to be able to produce the spare parts and other things that are needed to support these industries. The third one is environment, waste management, and circular economy. This is one of the challenging areas that we have in this country. We all know how Galamsey is destroying our lands, our forests, our rivers, and so on. The reason is that we don't have the skills, the know-how to be able to do this with technology that will enable us to harness those resources and also make sure that our environment is not being destroyed. And so the environment, waste management, and circular economy is one of the strategic technology areas. ICT, that's where communication and digitalization comes in. Very, very critical. And we are going to support the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization to make sure that the right emphasis is put on ICT. Renewable energy. Everything that you do, you are going to need energy. The reality is that today, we are all shying away from the use of fossil fuels and relying on renewable energy. We want to build the capacity to develop new renewable energy sources and also apply it towards the things that we do. The others are health and pharmaceuticals, mining and minerals processing, oil and gas. So those are the 8 strategic technology areas. Now, this may change over the years, but for now, those were the ones that we came up with. And finally, there's the concept of strategic technology centers, which are centers that we are planning to establish in all parts of the country, depending on where it is most needed. If we are putting one up for agro-processing, for example, there's no need to put it in Accra, because most of the food is coming from other areas. We want to select those areas where there is competitive advantage and put them there. I've told you about the Foundry and Machine Tooling Center. That's one of them. We have set one up, another one, at the CSR Industrial Research Institute, where students and the youth can come for training, consultancy, and also facilities for piloting some of the things that they are doing. This will help us to push our industrialization agenda. It will solve the problem of high unemployment, and it will also create wealth that will stay in this country. So briefly, at a very, very high level, these are the pillars that are forming the foundation of Ghana's science, technology, and innovation policy. And I want to thank you for your kind attention to my remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oliver Boachi, who is a special advisor to the Minister of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. It's not always that you have such precise details on what the government is doing around specific topic areas. So we are very grateful that you've been able to share in detail what you are working on and what we can look forward to. I know that you've been sitting for a while. I myself, I'm getting a little bit peckish, so just to let you know that the day has not ended. We're going to have a 30-minute break where we will be serving lunch. Lunch will be served outside and to the left. So when you go outside the main auditorium, you take a left, and then we will be serving lunch there. I know that we have a lot of entrepreneurs with us here today. I have seen quite a few that I know myself. And I'm very excited to share with you that the Ghana Digital Innovation Week is introducing a pitch day. So this is by KNUST, and it's in partnership with the GDIW, and it's a one-day virtual pitch day. The pitch day is happening virtually. You can now submit your presentations via the website. So if you visit the GDIW website, you can submit your proposal there. You can also send an email to info@gdiw.org. info@gdiw.org. You will have all the information for submitting your presentations there. The presentation of awards and closing ceremony will be on the 26th, but the actual innovation pitch day is on the 24th of November. I think it is a fantastic opportunity for visibility, for co-creation, for ignition. So I'm encouraging all entrepreneurs, all of us who have ideas that we want to share, please participate in the Innovation Pitch Day. The rest of today's program is more in-depth discussions. We have a very exciting lineup of conversations happening. If you would notice outside in our main auditorium, you would see these different partitions. Each of these partitions is a room. Each of these have names. Please feel free to scan. If you look to your left-hand side, we've put out these beautiful banners. You can scan for information on the specific topic areas and the specific rooms. You can also visit the website for that information. But just to do a quick run-up, we're going to have lunch for 30 minutes, and when we come back, we have a discussion on innovation for policy. This is happening in Runway. We also have a discussion led by Ashesi University on innovation ecosystem assessment, assessing the innovation ecosystem in Ghana. This is happening in the room we are calling Niche. We also have a session on the innovation process and due diligence. This is also happening, being led by KNUST. We have a conversation on ACFTA by GIMPA. And this is also happening in the room known as due diligence. Please visit the website or scan for details on the rest of the program for today. We are so grateful to have you join us. Thank you for staying through till the end. You've been a wonderful audience, and I have been your host, Emilia Innocent. Please know that the Ghana Digital Innovation Week is happening throughout the week. So we look forward to seeing you here tomorrow through till Friday. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.